Whom have I in heaven but thee? And there is none upon earth that I desire beside thee, beside thee. I will love thee with all of my heart and my soul, knowing there is none upon the earth that I desire beside thee. Whom have I in heaven but thee? And there is none upon earth that I desire. Whom have I in heaven but thee? Psalm 73 verse 25. Whom have I in heaven but thee? And there is none upon earth that I desire beside thee, beside thee.
Good morning to those online. Glad you can join us, and all of you here. This is our final Sabbath here at Waterford, which is going to be sad, isn't it? But we're going to be going to Fernvale and up to Glenwood, up north. And welcome to Marilyn online in Grand Rapids. Glad you can join us. Richard in the Philippines. Andrew down in Victoria. Tracy up in Yeppoon, glad you can join us. Marilyn over in Tennessee, Megan in the British Virgin Islands, and Robin just up the road. So glad you can join us. Let's sing together all the way. That's a good idea, Lee. Up on the screen. Have you got the screen? All the way my Saviour leads me. What have I to ask beside? Can I doubt His tender mercy? Through life has been my guide. Heavenly peace, divinest comfort, here by faith in Him to dwell. For I know whatever befall me, Jesus doeth all things well. For I know whatever befall me, Jesus doeth all things well. All the way my Saviour leads me, she's each winding path I tread, gives me grace for every trial, feeds me with the living bread. Though my weary steps may falter, and my soul athirst may be, gushing from the rock before me, lo, a spring of joy I see. Gushing from the rock before me, lo, a spring of joy I see. All the way my Saviour leads me, on the fullness of His love, perfect rest to me is promised in my Father's house above. When I wake to life immortal, wing my flight to realms of day. This my song through endless ages. Jesus led me all the way. This my song through endless ages. Jesus led me all the way. Good morning to Alan in Kenya. Alan, you're up very early. It's 2 o'clock in the morning over there. Narelle, good morning from Glenwood. Adam, down in Sydney. Glad you can join us. Robin's asked for a number, but Di had a number.
Oh, no, go Robin's.
Okay.
What did Robin want?
She wants 608 in the new. Is that faith is the victory? Is that 608?
I was just looking at it and thinking, this isn't be a good one. So we're indeed.
Faith is the victory. Good morning, Colin and Lynn. Welcome. Encamped along the hills of mine. Yeah, we're not going to front screen. The battle ere the night shall veil the glowing skies. The bow in veils below, let all our strength be hurled. Is the victory we know that overcomes the world. 608 on your phone. Faith is the victory. Faith is the victory. Oh, glorious victory that overcomes the world. Just before we continue, we have some hymnals over there. If you don't have an app on the phone, the hymns are over there. We're going to go up.
Up to D.
All right. On every bit of hand the foe we find drawn up in dread array. Let tents of praise be left behind and onward to the fray. Salvation's helmet on each head with truth all girt about. The earth shall tremble neath our tread and echo with the shout. Faith is the victory. Faith is the victory. Oh, glorious victory that overcomes the world. To him that overcomes the foe, white raiment shall be given. Before the angels he shall know that they confessed in heaven. Then onward from the hills of light, our hearts with love aflame, vanquish all the host of night in Jesus' conquering name. Faith is the victory. Faith is the victory. Oh, glorious victory that overcomes the world. Wonderful. Good morning to Hanya. Good to see you, Hanya. And glad you can join us. Hanya can't be with us. She had some difficulty last night, but we're glad you're doing okay. And Lumi Morrow over in... Are you in Arkansas, Lumi? Is that where you are? Jenny Granger down near Goulburn. And Sarah, also in New South Wales. It's wonderful to have people from New South Wales joining us.
They're free.
Sorry?
They're free.
They're free. Are they free? And
By spirit.
can't we be thankful that yesterday afternoon the restrictions were lifted from 30, so we don't have to worry about that restriction. So if you're nearby, you can more than welcome to come. You don't have to hold back. Judy up in Cairns, glad that you can join us. Happy Sabbath. Brianna as well, and the children. Glad that you can join us.
532.
532 in the new. Yeah, yes, it is the new.
I've been told.
So 532. Do we have any more hymnals? You'll need your app, or we have hymnals over there. Day by day, and with each passing moment, strength I find to meet my trials here. Trusting in my Father's wise bestowment, I've no cause for worry or for fear. He whose heart is kind beyond all measure gives unto each day what he deems best. Lovingly, it's part of pain and pleasure, mingling toil with peace and rest. Every day the Lord himself is near me, with a special mercy for each hour. Though my cares he fain would tame and cheer me, he whose name is Counselor and Power, the protection of his child and treasure is a charge that on himself he laid. As your days, your strength shall be in measure. This the pledge to me he made. Help me then in every tribulation, so to trust thy promises, O Lord, that I lose not faith's sweet consolation, offered me within thy holy word. Help me, Lord, when toil and trouble meeting, ere to take as from a father's hand, one by one, the days, the moments fleeting, till I reach the promised land. Amen.
Favourites.
Yes, it's a beautiful song, isn't it? Before I hand over to Liam,
Oh yes, I
You-
wanted to say something in front. Is that all right?
that's all right.
I was listening to
Just don't choke yourself on the cord.
I'll try not to. I was listening to Ruben's presentation the other day, and I realised because I sat up the front near the mic that you could hear me singing. I apologise to everyone online.
You didn't need to come up and say that.
Oh, I did. I was like, oh, I love being up the front, but oh, it was so close to the mic. Oh, I'm so sorry, everybody.
So you should be.
I was just like, oh my gosh, you can hear me. It's just like, oh dear.
You got a lovely voice, Fiona. You got a lovely voice. We just
Oh,
printed it.
it wasn't really. At
The Bible does say make a joyful noise, not a joyful tune, a joyful noise. So you qualify.
But there was no need for an apology. We forgave you. Great.
Thanks.
Apology not accepted. Good morning. Welcome. Just to let everyone know, of course, this is our last Sabbath here. Next Sunday, it's the big move day. So we do have some trucks and a truck and trailers organised. If anyone's got a spare trailer and it is available on Sunday, come and help us take a few boxes up to Glenwood. That would be wonderful. So I'm going to hand over to Liam. It's appropriate that a member of the Irving family should speak on the last great day.
That's what I thought. Somewhat.
So you want to turn your machine on?
Hold it down.
Yep. Hold it down.
Hold down the fort.
So an hour and a half, Liam, we're expecting.
Hour and a half. I don't know if I can fulfill your expectations. Thankfully, I know I don't fulfill God's. Because he doesn't have any expectations, as I'm learning.
Except to bless you.
Yeah, of course. I think I might have mentioned a while ago that I wanted to talk about something at some point, maybe, but just didn't have the organisation to do it. I still don't think I have the organisation to do it. But yeah, we'll just see what happens. We'll pray. Definitely pray. I asked Adrian at Tabernacles if I could be one of the last speakers to present here at Waterford, and of course he said yes, without hesitation. Inside, that's loud now. Maybe I don't need to try and talk so loudly. Inside the mind of Liam is a very busy and crazy place. So trying to get something together to talk about was a bit of a challenge. Because there's many different things that could be spoken of. But as I was talking to Adrian about it, I said the thing that makes, I guess, each individual's presentation special is that they talk about something that is special to them, and they believe that to be of genuine interest for themselves, and therefore they want to share that with other people. I shouldn't do that. I've written down a lot of things because I didn't have access to a computer. I just started putting pen to paper last night, even though just trying to collaborate some of my thoughts.
We can hardly hear you.
You can hardly hear me?
No, can't hear you.
Okay, maybe I do need to talk up. It sounds to me like it's loud. I don't know. No? Okay.
It's pointing back at you.
Pointing back at me. Well, maybe then I do need to try and talk up. Something that I'm not naturally gifted like Adrian to do. I guess yes, we'll start with prayer.
Let's do that.
Father in heaven, thank you for this opportunity where I've been presented the time to share something that is, I guess, of importance in my heart and in my mind with the people gathered here. You know that the pressure is being felt upon myself, but Lord, I know there is no pressure placed upon me from anyone here. May I trust more in you, in that you have given me the thoughts that I have had, and that I can share your thoughts with everyone else here too. So I pray in Yeshua's name. Amen. So yes, to everyone up the back, please forgive me if I don't talk up loudly, and everyone up the front that might hear me mumbling. Just bear with me. Pardon?
There's seats down here.
I was just about to say, I'll write that at the top of my page. Can everyone please put their phones on silent? Often they go off during presentations, and I probably can't deal with distractions too much. But please feel free if you want to share anything. But I talk. Feel free to say it. I detour enough as it is in my own mind, off my own train of thought, without any help, so it won't bother me too much. So yeah, frantically writing down a lot of things, trying to go through different verses in my head, what I should share, how I should try and share. I know I'm not a man like Reuben or a man like Adrian, Eddie. I pointed at Gavin when I said Eddie.
Eddie's my middle name.
Eddie's middle name. There you go. But I guess this is where
You start.
everywhere starts. But
This is where you start.
this is where you start,
To become-
exactly.
To become like that.
To become like one of these people that I aspire to be like in our spiritual walk. I titled my little presentation, Who Am I? Because in talking with Adrian about all the things I could talk about, he said, share your testimony. I said, oh, what a good place to start. Because I think there has been a few occasions where I've popped up briefly up the front here and shared a little bit, but haven't really shared too much. And I know most of you here know me to a degree because I'm a regular face. But there's a little bit of a backstory to my life that maybe hasn't been spoken of too much from myself. As we've been learning about the phrase, as you judge, I realised that maybe a year or two ago, I kind of coined that phrase in my own words, saying, depends who you ask. So to the question of who am I, the context can be, depends if the person is saying, who am I, as in you've got to try and guess who I am, like the game when you played when you were younger. Or are they describing themselves to you as who am I? Today I'll attempt to do maybe the latter and describe myself to you guys. But we'll see how that goes. Simply put, I'm the son of Jeremy, who is the son of Paul, who is the son of Robert, and that's probably as far as I know. But by faith I claim to be the son of God, a son of God. That is something that I struggle with in my day-to-day life as we go through our ups and downs, through our journeys. and many of you here and online who are watching, who aren't here in person, remind me often of how much of a blessing I am to you guys, and how maybe God is still working through me continually, even though I might not necessarily believe it at that moment or throughout moments in my day-to-day life. So, by faith, I accept it. It was only last week, up at my grandparents' property now, that I was talking to Melissa Otto, and she was sharing with me that I was a bit of an encouragement to her, just when I was singing and looking at one of the young children at the back. I think it might have been Enoch or Amos, one of the boys from up the road. I was looking at them, and I was singing, and Melissa's like, "How did you know the words?" It was the song, I think it was 320 in the old, can't remember what it is now, but I remember the, don't do that. I think I remember the number. And just the encouragement, I guess, that kind of came from that, because in that memory, or in that what's the word I'm thinking of? In the acknowledgement that she was giving me, or not really acknowledgement, but in the moment, the confidence that she was, sharing. Sorry, this is my big water bottle. My mouth is quite dry. She was like the thought came to mind that we have often looked at now in Steps to Christ, where the source of every right impulse is Christ, and just to realise that God was working through me in order to reach her, someone who I've looked up to, and liked listening to her music, and have found much blessing and strength from her work. For her to say that to me, I was like, oh, how's that so? It can't be. More of that struggle, as in, can God be using someone like me to reach someone who I look up to and get strength from, instead of through Christ. One verse that has proved over the test of the last few years of my life to be a source of strength is found in Philippians. You don't really need to turn. I'm probably not going to do much of an exhaustive study or anything like that, just sharing a verse. In Philippians 1:6, some of you probably know it, and most of you probably have heard it and know it. Being confident this very thing, that he who has begun a good work in you will perform it till the day of Jesus Christ. So throughout all of my ups and downs, when that is reminded and impressed upon me from our Saviour, the hope is found again, and the recognition that I can overcome all of my struggles that I have, which are many, like we all have. I was thankful that I went down to Rise Express in 2017, and that was a part of their 20 or so Bible verses that they were going to test us on, so we needed to learn them, and thankfully that it got put to memory, and I've continued to use it, I guess, over the years. So without that little bit of pressure applied, it probably wouldn't have happened. I need that little bit of pressure, even though I know God doesn't work in maybe applying that sort of pressure anymore, as we're now learning, but yeah, I needed it at that time. I was met where I needed to be. Well, how do you say that?
God met me where I was.
God met me where I was, exactly. I think we can all relate to that. Being raised in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, attending a Seventh-day Adventist school, when I was in nappies right up until grade 12, I felt I didn't question much of what it is I believed or was taught. I started in kindergarten, and then went right through the school system. At Brisbane Adventist College, not far from here, many of you know that, or had children that went there or went there yourselves at some point. However, not questioning a lot of the things I was taught, there was a few things that really kind of I wrestled with when I was quite young. Being a big fan of Lego, I remembered going and getting a set, or before I got the set, I remember standing in the shop and looking at the big wall of Lego, and obviously Lego was pretty expensive, and I didn't have a lot of money, so I thought I needed to be strategic in what it is I was going to buy. And I looked up, and on the box, in the red sticker with big white letters, I'm pretty sure it was big white letters, stood out like a sore thumb, 3-in-1. I thought, okay, if I can get 3-in-1 for the price of whatever it was, compared to a box that has only one set in it, I only get the one set, why would I waste my money and buy one set when I can get 3 sets in one? So I bought it, assembled it, and came to the realisation pretty quickly that I didn't have all the pieces to make another one. And I was like, I've been jibbed. What's going on? How can they sell me 3 in one when I only get one? Morning. So in that sort of struggle in my little mind as a kid, I was like trying to understand the concept of God. How he could be 3 in one. And I eventually just gave up and just thought, oh, I don't think you really just deconstruct God to make another piece and then deconstruct and make another piece. But anyway, that was how I was reasoning in my head. Another one of the 2 main things I remember vividly anyway, is I'd lie in bed at night, normally. I'd be lying there and I'd be thinking, how on earth could God know the end from the beginning? Like he knows everything that happened before it even happens. I was wrestling with this idea, and I'd lie there and all of a sudden make a sudden movement. I thought, oh, I bet God didn't see that one coming. I'd try and play these little games with God, saying, oh, I think I can get him. I can get him somewhere. If he truly knows everything, maybe I can find with something he doesn't know. That was just, I must have been about 10, so a little while ago. But a little bit of the expansion of what's in Liam's mind.
Awesome.
Should stop doing that. As I became a little older, my parents, I'm just trying to jump through a little bit of my testimony a little bit, try and sum it up. As I became a little bit older, my parents' relationship became a bit tumultuous. I don't know if that's the right word.
Yep.
My English is somewhat of
Doing well.
a decent level, I think.
Just keep going.
Just keep going. So I might use words that probably don't make much sense, but they made sense in my head.
I'll understand it. Don't worry.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I've got one person affirming that they'll understand it. I hope everyone else does too.
English is a second language to me, it's okay.
I could say it's my second, but it's really my first. So anyway, their relationship became a little bit rough, and they ended up getting a divorce. I'm not sure. It must have been around grade 6. I think I was in at school, 6 or 7, and that obviously brought with it all of the challenges. I know I think if some of you have also been through that experience with your parents, or if not even yourselves, and it brings with it a lot of challenges. And I think going through my memory to the best of my ability, that's probably where a lot of my, as Adrian has now coined the term, I guess, or termed the phrase, the identity war for me really began. Struggling with, the household situation, Dad not being around so much, Mum not being around so much, wherever we were at the time. That's where it's like, where do I find where I fit? Where do I find where it is I can feel at home or feel peace, feel comfort, whatever it might be, all those sort of things. And at school, I found my release in sport, I guess a bit like Adrian. And any sport I could play, if it was team orientated, became very individually focused. Where it is I can shine and not worry about everyone else. There was a ball involved, which is pretty much every sport. I'd be the one running with it or playing with it or trying to run the show. And I also happened to I managed to be like age champion for all the athletics events and stuff at school. Who only went to, it was a very big school. So pretty much every year I think I became either age champion or runner-up. There wasn't a year I didn't get it. So that's where I kind of focused all my energies and found my pride, found my identity, I guess we can call it. My value in my achievements. And I bring those home to Mum and Dad and I say, look what I've got. And they would, congratulate me. And I felt a little bit bad for my sister because she didn't have that. And this is how it is in the performance kingdom, isn't it? That I the one excel and you don't, therefore I can get the praise and you don't. In the workforce, it's not much different. If you're the fastest or if you can do something the best, you get the praise and other people don't. A little bit further on in years now, it was either the New Year's Eve of 2011 or 2012 when Mum and Dad actually got remarried to each other. After all the few years of being separated, they managed to receive some counselling sessions from Graham and Michelle Hood, Graham is now known as the former Qantas pilot who's speaking up about a lot of the things that are going on at the moment, in case you were unaware of who he was. So there was a relationship established between them and us as a family, and they actually got remarried at their property down at Nerang, I think around 2011, 2012, on Christmas Eve, or New Year's Eve, not Christmas Eve. So it was pretty cool to have that relationship established again, because as we're learning, relationships are very important in our lives, and when they're not there, they're very missed. Fast forward to the end of 2014, that was the year I graduated school, and then real life started. As you all know, and you probably all experienced if you went through the schooling system, life out in the real world, as they call it, is a lot different to school. You no longer have your set lunch times and have all your friends you can go and hang out with. You don't have a person standing up the front telling you what to do, or telling you what to write down, or giving you hints, whatever it might be, or things you can throw at your friends without too much, problems. Because normally it's only paper, but yeah, after you get out in the real world, things can change. So after that, this is 2014, so after that, in 2015, in the month of September, was Big Camp. And Big Camp was a big event for a young male who was looking to be with his friends, hang out, and maybe seek other companions as well. It's either that or Avondale, really, for Adventists, isn't it, where they think you're trying to get set up. I was working. I didn't manage to go there for the entire camp, but on the first weekend and the second weekend, I managed to go. And whilst I was walking around the campus, I was carrying around a box of tissues because I had a bit of a man flu, so I thought it was. And that lasted for the first week, and then the week after, and then into the first week after camp. It was the Labour Day and long weekend in October of 2015 that I came up with a fever, or came down with a fever, however you want to label it. And I remember trying to help Dad outside in the garden, do some work, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I went inside, wet a tea towel under the tap in the kitchen, went and lay on the couch, put it on my forehead, and I fell asleep. And that's the last thing I remember. But at some point on Tuesday morning, which 6 years ago this week, technically I still would have been in hospital now, in the coma. But I'll elaborate more about that, I guess, soon. At some point on Tuesday, I went outside to maybe return my boss's phone call and let him know I wasn't at work. And I would have passed out, or could have passed out because of the heat and the fever, and fell off the second story of our home over the balcony. So I broke my collarbone. So I think 4 meters is probably pretty close to the roof, I think. So I fell off the edge, just probably leaning on the handrail, just passed out, fell off. Yeah, broke my collarbone, had a big bruise on my shoulder. And Grandad took some pretty funny photos of me that weren't funny at the time. But now I look back at it and go, well, I look pretty drugged up and dopey. But yeah, I keep doing that.
Is that right?
Yeah, I guess that was kind of like a big turning point in my life and in the life of my family that no one really wants to go through or experience. But through it all, we can see where God's been leading in our lives and has brought me out of that. Talking a little bit more about the hospital experience, I don't remember the first 4 weeks and the majority, but I remember the last 4 weeks. But there's a lot of stories that were told of me with the truth serum in hospital that I'm not sure if it can be correctly labelled the truth serum or if it's simply, what did I write down? Maybe I didn't write it down here. Oh, page flipped. No. Truth serum. There's something else I called it. I thought was better. I don't have Lynn to guide me through my notes like Colin does. I need a Lynn. Lynn, this is where you were. I didn't give you a copy. I couldn't give a copy. I only had to write it down. I only could write it down.
Photocopy.
Yeah. So, thank you for bearing with me. Yeah, truth serum or thought-to-speech serum, I call it, because a lot of my thoughts simply came out without a filter. And it was somewhat of a humorous time for most people, and other people didn't quite get the funny side of what it is I was trying to say, even though I probably wasn't trying to be very funny. It was just how I thought it. Not long after leaving hospital, my boss at that time had challenged me just before I had that fall and the experience of prison, as some people might call it. He challenged me that if I would come and work Saturday for him, he would pay me my week's wage just to come work Saturday, trying to get me to walk away from the Sabbath, as you do in the trade force when you need someone to work and you don't really have anyone, but you have someone who's not willing to do that. So, like, coming out of the hospital experience, questions became more easily attained, easily accessible. I'm not sure. Like, it's like a new lease on life when something like that happens. Like, as I can't remember succinctly, some parts of me must have remembered, like muscle memory, whatever it might be, subconsciously, that you nearly died. You could have died, but you didn't. So, what is it that you do that is worth doing, or is real? Like, do you actually believe it? And I found a little book on, I think it was on the App Store, the Apple App Store, or the bookstore, not the App Store, bookstore. It was very short, it was only about 40 pages long, and I've tried to find it since then, and I haven't been able to. But there was a gentleman who was going through the few accounts in the New Testament where the disciples or Jesus, whoever it might have been at the time, had gathered, or it could have been possibly interpreted that Sabbath was changed from Saturday to Sunday. And he went through all of them in small detail in the 40-page, 50-page booklet. And after reading that, I was pretty convinced that Sabbath was true. Because growing up in Seventh-day Adventist Church, just didn't question it, just did it because that's what everyone else did, like all the other beliefs I had as a child. That's just where the water flowed, you went with the water. And I think many of us have had that experience. I know when Colin and Lynn were sharing about some of their testimony before when they got baptised a few weeks ago. It's a similar sort of thing. I think everyone's experienced it if you've grown up in the church. So after coming to the truth about the Sabbath, I felt pretty settled. And it was around that time too I started coming to this little group here, because it was my grandparents' house at that time. And finished school, I now was free to do what it is I wanted on a Wednesday evening and on a Sabbath. But I didn't really come here on a Sabbath. I came here on Wednesday nights because I had all my friends to go somewhere else on a Sabbath and didn't want to hang out with the old people. I say that term loosely, but there's a filter, lots of filter, but yeah, exactly.
That was the truth.
It was the truth, yeah. But see, it's always things like that. Are always what's the term? It's not situational, relative. Relative. That's it. Because
exactly.
Once I was 15, I looked to someone who was 20 years old, and now I'm 24. I looked to someone who's 15 as being very young, and I wish I was back at that age. And I'm old, but yeah. And then other people that are here that may be twice my age go, "Oh no, you're not old. Wait till you get to my age." So yeah, it's all relative.
Yes, that is what we say.
Exactly. Depends who you hang out with. Depends who you ask. I don't know, did I elaborate on that? I'm not sure. Yeah, at the beginning I did elaborate. Depends who you ask. So after questioning the Sabbath and finding truth in that, I then, coming from here and attending this little offshoot group, it's like, oh, how could they be true? How could they be right about this whole identity of God issue that was kind of reigning at that time? It was one of the main things that's being spoken of. How can they be right and the mainstream be wrong? You know, that's never heard of, is it? But as we're hearing laughter around the audience, it's obviously the opposite is true most of the time.
Look at history.
Look at history, exactly. That Ellen White quote, "We've nothing to fear for the future except we forget how God led us in the past," and his teachings. Yeah. There's so many things out there that many people don't look at because of fear of being taken out of their comfort zone. And I thank God that it took a fall for me to have some sense knocked into me. I think that seriously is one of the things what it took. Sadly, yeah, it was near-death experience, and a lot of my family had to go through that as well. But coming out of that, there's the more freedom I felt to ask those questions that you didn't really want to ask before, and had that liberty just to go out and look. So Yeah. A lot's happened since that time. In all aspects of our lives, we can all go through things that have happened in the last few years that we never would have thought have happened even the last 12, 18 months. It's been quite a roller coaster for all of us. And I think a verse that kind of came to mind when I was thinking about what is to talk about, chapter, I guess Isaiah 59. I should have, if I was prepared, I would have had this already laid out, but thankfully it doesn't take too long to find. In Isaiah 59, the verse that came to my mind is in verse 14. And judgment is turned away backward, and justice standeth afar off. For truth is fallen in the street, and equity cannot enter. Now, when I had a look at my phone this morning, justice can be translated as judgment. Judgment can be translated as justice in the beginning there, and justice can also be translated as righteousness. And as we only looked at from, I think, Colin or Ruben's presentation last week up at Tabernacles, the broader understanding or the great understanding of those words, there's a lot more depth into it and what is righteousness and where that all fits in. And truth has definitely fallen in the streets, and it's not spoken of as truth, and people are getting quieted and taken down and slandered, I guess, whatever it might be, for trying to speak what it is they think is truth. I feel like I might jump around a bit, and have been jumping around a bit, but thankfully you're all on the roller coaster and buckled in with me, so you can go for the ride. You can handle it. This morning on my phone, it came up with a Bible verse from the Bible app found in Matthew 16, verses 13. Something I think we've all recently kind of been looking at as well and understand. 16:13 is where it starts. Helps if I go to 16 and not chapter 13. When Jesus came into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, "Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" And they said, "Some say that thou art John the Baptist, some Elias, and others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets." But he saith unto them, "But whom say ye that I am?" And Simon Peter answered and said, "Thou art Christ, the Son of the living God." This idea of who do you say that I am also kind of somehow might tie into that title. And that is a point of much contention in our day-to-day lives now, in our groups, in our churches, as in who do you say that Christ is? Not talking on an individual level, who do you say that I am? But in regards to him, that's a big issue when you delve into it. So, not sure where I was going to go with that. The quest for truth is a desire for most of us, too hard for some, and achieved by a small number. But then again, it depends on who you ask as to what that truth is, or what truth is for them, as to where they find they are content in what it is they've learnt and understood. Have any of you here seen the movie or read the book about Hell and Mr. Fudge?
Yeah.
See some heads nodding?
Yes.
I drink a lot of water. That has nothing to do with Hell and Mr. Fudge, but just thought I'd say that. Sorry. When I watched the movie for the first time a few years ago, it was at Springwood Church. I went with my grandparents, they invited me along. And it had a great impact because I could see what had happened to him. It basically happened to Adrian, and will happen to anyone else who kind of comes to a different opinion. You will get ostracised, I guess, in some ways, and you'll get pushed out. And as we see in the mainstream with everything going on else now too, it's just how we operate as humans. It's just how we do things. And there was a song at the end of that movie that I wrote down the lyrics. It's called "It Is All About Love," or "It's All About Love" by a fellow called Bradley Earl. He says, "Ask 50 people if you're going the right way, you're going to get 100 different directions. Share with just 10 what you truly believe, and you'll get at least 20 objections. Maybe you've got all the answers to life. Well, we all decide and pray that we're right. Each generation seems to write its own song, but it's so hard to know who's right and who's wrong. Then it goes to the chorus. No, it's not a sign that's hanging over the door, and life's not a game where God's keeping score. This journey we're taking is so much more. So keep putting one foot in front of the other. Stretch out your hand now and lift up your brothers. If you care for your own, you won't have to try to judge. Oh, my handwriting was pretty messy, so I'm sorry if I read it wrong.
That's fine.
As I was listening to it, I'm trying to write it down because it's just sound.
I'm going to get you a cover.
Going to get me a cover? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Remember that in the end, it's all about love. We all like to think we know how others should live, but it's so hard to see just what they have to give. They just want to hold the answer to the way we should go. Real truth doesn't change. We just change what we know. The path in this life has been mapped out for ages. It's all there to follow in the good book and pages. Remember to judge not that ye be not judged. When we're led by the light, we'll be guided with by love. And so much of what it is we're talking about presently, I think just related to that. I can see it's all tied in, and as Adrian's spoken of too, when other people share your ideas or sharing with you the same ideas you've been having, it like seems to be a what did I say? Seems to be basically not a guarantee, not a guarantee, confirmation, a confirmation affirming that what it is you're looking at might have some truth in it. You might be on the right track. Not saying you're not going to definitely say you are right, but it just seems to flesh out and make you more confident that, okay, someone else has learnt this, maybe God's revealing it to them too. And everywhere I kind of go in my life, I don't think I particularly set out to try and find truth. I kind of stumble across it, or hear little bits and pieces, and I'll quickly like, oh, and I remember and recall like this song. I want to watch this movie 3 years ago, and as I'm maybe trying to prepare something to write, it's like, oh, what about that song that I wrote down all those years ago? I could talk about that, and it all ties in, it all fits in. I just think like the goodness of God is far greater than what it is we can imagine. And talking about the goodness of God, and judge not that you shall not be judged, all these things, and being up at tabernacles and learning about the peace that Christ can give, you just manufacture one.
I did.
Oh, look at that.
I didn't want it to bother you.
Oh, thank you. I feel like it's bothering everyone else. But if not, that's good. I thought about trying to be a little bit comical, but then I thought I don't want to try and take away from the seriousness of maybe. Oh, still a little bit. I just don't do that. Try, like that. Yeah, try not to take away from the fact that this is a serious time you're becoming before God to talk. It's like, oh, where's the line? How do you judge? How do you read?
No condemnation.
No condemnation, and praise God that He doesn't condemn us, and no one here, I pray, will hopefully condemn me. Coming from tabernacles, learning about this peace that Christ is willing to give, coming off the high. It was Monday morning only this week, where I was still up at my grandparents' house, and I was loading the trailer and trying to pack up my ute with Granddad, and us Irvings are very independent and strong-willed and unwilling to submit. And I think many of us have gone through that. Doesn't matter what your last name is. Sounds like most of us, exactly, as Adrian's saying. I want to do things my way, and Granddad's telling me not to do things that way because he wants to do it that way because that's his way and that's the way he's done it. And sure enough, we ended up kind of not being on talking terms for a bit. He left. I upset him. I made a smart aleck comment because sometimes most of the time when I can't deal with things, I resolve to quietness and sharp words. Just sharp in the sense, I don't speak it like everyone else I work with, thankfully, but just sharp enough it still hurts. And probably ask me, where are you going to put that? So I'll put it on the top of my head. and that was enough to set him off. He then left. He was pretty upset, and it was only that morning in worship we were reading in Desire of Ages, chapter 76, the chapter about Judas, about all the things that Christ. I won't read it. Not Christ. Ellen White was writing about Judas and his dealings with Christ and the disciples, and how he thought he was more elevated than them, and all of these sort of things. And then after we finished the morning worship, as we were praying, Grandma and Granddad, do you want to pray? Yeah, I'll pray. I asked that, may you please help us all to recognise the Judas in ourselves. Because straight away when I was listening to it, I could sense that's me. Like I could put myself in Judas' shoes quite easily. And then, like not even an hour later, here I am being a Judas, not willing to admit being annoying and upsetting people. And I just thought, how hypocritical, how whatever it might be, all those thoughts start to come in. Look, you're not as good as you think you are. Look, you're not a son of God. Whatever it might be, you're a bad person. All of those sort of thoughts. Thankfully, the relationship has been restored. Atonement has been made. And Grandma was even sharing with me after Poppy had left. Don't take it to heart, Poppy and I have had disagreements over our marriage, over the course of our marriage. I'm sorry if I'm sharing this, but I'm just telling everyone. I should have asked for permission, but I don't think it's too bad.
Filter.
Yeah, the filter, definitely filter. We've had disagreements in the past in our marriage where things have taken a while, like been a couple of weeks for things to, come right again. So don't be surprised if it takes a little bit of time. And a testimony to how God has been working in my granddad's life, from the life he's been living in the police force, it took less than 24 hours for that relationship to be restored. So that's why I was bringing it up. Just to demonstrate yet again that I'm seeing the results, I'm seeing the fruits of coming from a thing like Tabernacles, where something may have taken weeks in the past, and the changes that God's making in our lives as individuals is great. It is. I'm seeing it, and I'm praising God that I'm seeing it, and I think we're all seeing it in different aspects and things that we come across, and others come across in us. The depths of the depravity of our human nature is rarely understood by us. When it comes up, we can see it, and we often get shocked by it. But I praise God that He's with us through it all, and wants to change us from that depraved nature. Going back to Helen, Mr. Fudge, there was a quote, I think, at the beginning of the movie from Victor Hugo. So the rise from truth to error is rare and beautiful. That was all it was. But as we go about looking for truth and asking questions about what is truth, and I don't even know what time it is, but thank you.
Is that the rise from error to truth?
The rise from error to truth.
Yeah. It's a truth to error.
I said truth of error. I might be a little bit dyslexic. I don't know if that's... but yeah. Autistic? No, I'm not. Listy.
Just
whatever.
normal.
Just normal. I'm a little bit, no.
You fit in well.
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Thankfully. As we search for truth, and as we're being discovered, as it's being revealed to us, there's so many ways that comes about, and just thankfully, and I hope that we can all accept that when it comes, and that's a challenge, because of all the other things that can come about from accepting that, and the loss of friends, whatever it might be, loss of homes, places you might have called home, but there was a song I found last night, because there was one song up at Tabernacles we all sung towards the end of our time there. I think it was on a Sabbath. I tried to look on the live stream but couldn't find it. But I was going through around the 300 mark in the old and new. I think it was in the old actually. I was looking and I come across 328 in the old. I don't think I've heard it before. I don't think we've sung it. But it's called "At First I Prayed for Light." And you do know it. I'm hearing like, okay, well I hadn't. But I just wanted to read you the lyrics. Because often when we sing songs, often when I sing songs, I don't know about you, I just sing it because it's words to sing and like the tune, whatever it might be, and the words don't have too much of an impact. But as I was reading this, I thought, wow. At first I prayed for light. Could I but see the way, how gladly, swiftly would I walk to everlasting day. And next I prayed for strength, that I might tread the road with firm, unfaltering feet, and win the heavens' serene abode. And then I asked for faith. Could I but trust my God, I'd live enfolded in his peace, though foes were all abroad. But now I pray for love, deep love to God and man, a living love that will not fail, however dark his plan. I'm sure that means man's plan, not God's plan, however dark his plan. Maybe I've read that wrong, but you know what I mean. And light and strength and faith are opening everywhere. God waited patiently until I prayed the larger prayer. The larger prayer that I need to pray, obviously, is this prayer of love. And as we're looking more and more about the agape love of our Father, I think we're all recognising we need that because we're seeing that we don't have it. And through experiences, whether it be with family members, often there's family members who know us the best, we let down our guard and we show the least amount of love to. But without that, I don't think we'd ever know how needy we are. So God is good. I wasn't sure where to finish, but I think there might be.
We're going to show us something else.
Oh, yes. In my massive slide presentation I prepared this morning, we're talking about truth. I'd stumbled across this years ago. It must have been when I was maybe like 16, in an email from a friend. I thought it just maybe be a little bit humorous. The correct way to answer a true or false question. If you're looking for the true or the false, and this is just in our humanness. This is how we try and dance around being direct. And I just thought, not trying to share a joke in regards to being true and false. And this is how Satan also tries to, I guess, encapsulate the truth, or not encapsulate, trying to twist the truth without being straight down the line.
Now the whole world is reaping this.
The whole world is reaping this, yeah, exactly. Where is truth? Where is it to be found?
It's fallen in the streets.
It's fallen in the streets. But our Father is still wanting to, He's giving us the truth. But if we are willing to accept it or not is down to us. Yeah, I totally forgot about that.
It's all right.
But yeah, just in the mind of Liam, whenever I see anything, I'm always thinking now 100 different thoughts. And now you've seen a little bit inside Liam's head today. But I thank you for your time, for listening. And I'm sure there was probably something else. There was talking about, how much time have we got left? Roughly about now? Yeah. No? Okay.
5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can get it done in 5 minutes. Talking about the depravity of humanness again and our deceptiveness by nature. There was another movie, sort of documentary that I'd seen. Graham Hood had showed me actually when I was down there one time. It's called The Heart of Man, and it is a journey through being a man, I guess, in some ways, talking about basically the lust of the flesh, and the lust that men are experienced with, and I'm sure women go through at some point too, in a different way. I'm not a woman, I can't tell you, but yeah. In that movie, in that documentary, there was a professor of counselling psychology called Dr. Dan Alexander, and he shared this, and I thought it was profound. Probably the most unexplainable reality in all the universe is how you can have everything and simply want something else you've been told not to get. That's madness. You've got billions of dollars and you sell your soul for a quarter that you see on the ground. Try and explain that. All we can say is God gave freedom to love, and without the choice to say no, there is no meaning to saying yes. And obviously you could parallel that and say that Adam and Eve had everything in the garden, and because they were told not to do something in them decided to go against that. And as we're exploring and learning more about maybe where that would have come from, and even go back to Satan himself, He had everything. But there was something else he desired that didn't have. Well, he thought he didn't have. He thought he didn't have. He reasoned within himself. And that's where I guess all struggles come from, when you reason within yourself. And things, really end up, we are living that. And we live that in our own lives, and we make our own decisions as well. In that documentary movie, there's a gentleman spoken of called William Paul Young, and he is the author of the book The Shack that got turned into a movie not long ago, a Christian movie, and it has a pretty funny rendition of God and his 3 different personalities. I remember sharing it with Adrian, and there's a scene of judgment in the movie that is pretty on par, if not with what is the character of God that we believe. I think it's safe to say. Even though his idea of God is not the same as us.
It's missing a big chunk.
It's missing a big chunk, but that part was right.
But that part was good.
Yeah. Well, this gentleman, he was also in this. Not there. He was also in this movie documentary because he had gone through some issues in his own life, and he felt like he needed to write this book, and that's where it kind of came from. And he was writing. No, he wasn't writing. He was talking in the movie and being interviewed, and he shared with something that I was like, when I heard this, I've got to share this with the group. I've got to come, and this was weeks ago when Brandon Rhiannon was still here. Because I think I'd given it to him to share, and then he left it here, and I think I was talking to Lorelle about it, and you might have donated it to somewhere. Because it was left, and it would just...
Filter.
Yeah, sorry. but anyway, no hard feelings. It's just how it all works out.
It's all right.
Yeah, the filter's not there sometimes, as you see. So going back to William Paul Young, in this interview, he was sharing a discussion he was having or had in the past with a young woman who was actually a preacher's daughter, and she had been told growing up in the church that when bad things happen, it's because you're bad, and God has to punish you to set the scales of justice right. And then she was also told by her parents that in that tradition, in that belief, that she was God's punishment to them. Like what the weight she must have had on her shoulders. And she wrote to William in an email telling him about this whole story.
Wow.
And in that email, she had 2 amazing statements. This is what William was saying. The first one was, when I was growing up, I didn't really know what the difference between God and Satan was. Except with Satan, I always knew where I stood. The character of Satan had more certainty than the character of God, and a lot of us are like that. Then William continues on to say the second thing, he talks a little bit. He said, and this is the accusation that was made in the Garden of Eden, in the mouth of the serpent, the very first conversation about God. You can't trust him. He's not good all the time. He'll lie to you. He doesn't want you to become everything you intended to be. Got an ant. The second thing she said was, I wasn't afraid to die. I was terrified of seeing the look of disgust on his face when we met. And the guy that we're learning about, his character, blows this out of the water. But some of our brothers and sisters, most of our brothers and sisters out there, might still believe this. And trying to take it out there to them, to show them the truth, not our individual truth, but the truth, it's universal, is the challenge I guess we're all facing, how to do that and how to go about it. But the freedom that can be experienced and is experienced when that happens, I think is what it is we all want to share, and what is all our experiences that we've had similar to coming from a position maybe like this to where we are now, is what it is we want to share. And I think it needs to be our driving force. That desire, that love that God has for us. I'll finish it there.
Beautiful.
So we'll say a prayer. Father, I thank you for settling the nerves and speaking through me, I believe, in order to share a little bit of my testimony, Father. Please, like I always pray, may your glory be done and continue to be done in not only my life, but in the lives of us as we share these things that we're learning. May you continue to guide us into truth as we know you desire to give us. And may we share it with the Spirit of Jesus. This I pray in his name. Amen.
I turn it off.
Don't turn off.
That's all right. I just wanted to say before we close how proud we are of Liam to walk with us on this journey to as we rise from error to truth.
Yeah.
And I think he did a tremendous job, don't you?
Praise God.
And you represent the hopes of us older grey-haired people,
Yeah.
along with Hannah and others, that this message is going to explode and become even more and more of a blessing.
We'll book him in next time.
And I guess there's probably one last little thing things I
yeah.
didn't really add and talk about in my testimony, I guess, of sorts. This year has been obviously up and down for all of us, many of us, and this is me being, what's the word? I have struggled with trying to figure out the right words to say all the time. If you know me well enough, you'll know that. Vulnerable.
Yeah.
There's me just being vulnerable now, I guess. But I know I'm in a safe place. Online, should be safe there too. I haven't considered suicide in the past before, but this year I probably have twice. It's been two occasions where I was contemplating it a fair bit. And Adrian knew the first time. There was a breakdown in a relationship where things were being said about me that I thought just really cut me. Thinking, how on earth could I have done that to someone? But knowing and realising that wasn't coming from our Father, it was coming from Christ whispering in my ears. All these things and just construed ideas, for whatever reason. Thankfully, I was discharged listening to our Father and came out of that. And I guess why I'm sharing this is just you and your love as a family towards me is what keeps bringing me back. And it was part of the reason, it was the main reason, if not through you guys expressing the love of our Father to me, that made me think, I don't really want to go through with it because I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be upset.
Indeed, there would have been.
Yeah, so I'm very thankful for this group, and yes, I may be the youngest at most of the time, apart from when Hannah's here.
I'll take that.
Yeah. Or other than even littler ones are here from up the road, but I feel my need is. I feel like one of those word things again. I feel the need to be here in order to share this message with other people my age and bring more people in. So I think that's my responsibility.
The Lord will bless you.
Yeah, I know so.
Amen. Thank you, Liam.
Should we sing that song now?
Yeah, if you guys know it, that'd be good for me to actually hear it. 328 in the old.
328. In the old?
Yes.
I'll always think of you whenever we sing this song. It's a Liam song.
'll book you in again.
I have to be more prepared next time.
You'll be fine.
Sorry, we're transposing on the run.
Yeah, okay. At first I prayed for light, could I but see the way, how gladly, swiftly would I work to everlasting day. I prayed for strength, that I might tread the road with firm unfaltering feet and win the heaven's serene abode. And then I asked for faith, could I but trust my God, I'd live enfolded in His peace through foes were all abroad. But now I pray for love, deep love to God and man, a living love that will not fail, however dark His plan. And light and strength and faith are opening everywhere. God waited patiently until I prayed the larger prayer. Can I share it? Much greater than the blessing than I just gave you. This is from your father. I've been watching. I'm so proud of Sir Liam. Bless you, Jeremy. That's the best blessing of all. All right. Did you want to respond?
I wrote down on the top of one of those pages again that I was going to apologise if I happened to cry, because I haven't cried pretty much in the last 6 years, and I feel like I've got a whole lot bottled up that I just need to release. And I guess thanks Poppy for sharing and telling Dad about that. It's nearly brought a tear to my eye. But yeah, no.
I think you qualify.
No, thank you, Dad. It means a lot.
Blessed by two fathers.
Yeah. No, love you, Dad.
Mum's
Amen.
going to watch it on video later. She's going to
Amen.
message as well.
Cool. No, thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. We'll have to sing another song now. We can't just walk out on that one, can we?
What's the one that Liam loves all the time?
What's the one you like?
End of the door. Oh, no. There was one we sang, it's in the old, I think it was around that 300 mark again. 320, is it? 320 in the old?
What a friend we have in Jesus?
Oh, there was another one. I wrote it down.
To heaven is one of the ones.
When we get to heaven, yeah, but talking about the domes afar, see the glory streaming through the gates ajar.
642 in the old?
That's a Leicester song.
Yeah.
We are nearing home.
That's the one. Yes, show the mount, yeah.
Shall we stand and
Yes.
sing together?
This is us standing in the back of Leicester's ute. Well, they used to sing it going in the ute as a kid, and they would sing it, you know, we're not far from home. Yeah. Y'all better remember that's a Christmas thing.
Just over the mountains in the promised land lies a holy city built by God's own hand. As our weary footsteps gain the mountain's crest, we can view our homeland of eternal rest. We are nearing home. We are nearing home. See the splendor gleaming from the domes afar. See the glory streaming through the gates ajar. There we soon will enter, never more to roam. Hear the angels singing, we are nearing home. We are nearing home. In the rolls of the prophets we have long been told of that wondrous city with its streets of gold. Now with raptured vision we can see it there, with its walls of jasper and its mansions fair. We are nearing home. We are nearing home. See the splendor gleaming from the domes afar. See the glory streaming through the gates ajar. There we soon will enter, never more to roam. Hear the angels singing, we are nearing home. We are nearing home. Those who enter that city are the faithful few, who keep God's commandments, faith of Jesus too. There we'll lift our voices through the endless days, in sweet songs of gladness and in psalms of praise. We are nearing home. We are nearing home. See the splendor gleaming from the domes afar. See the glory streaming through the gates ajar. There we soon will enter, never more to roam. Hear the angels singing, we are nearing home. We are nearing home. My brother, my sister, will you meet us there? In that land of sunshine where there'll be no care, accept of God's message and to Him be true. Then when Jesus cometh, He will call for you. We are nearing home. We are nearing home. See the splendor gleaming from the domes afar. See the glory streaming through the gates ajar. There we soon will enter, never more to roam. Hear the angels singing, we are nearing home. We are nearing home. It was a tremendous blessing when Liam was going through one of those difficult patches as a spiritual father to say to him, Liam, you are beloved of the Father. You are beloved in heaven and on earth. What a joy to be able to share that and know it and mean it. And this is what the Elijah message is all about, to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children and the children to the fathers. And I think we've seen that today, haven't we? All right. We shall be back in 15 or 20 minutes. Be blessed, and to those online, we'll be back soon. God bless.